Crime in Court. This is Lively versus Baldoni. It ends with a legal battle. So this is Blake Lively accusing Justin Baldoni of a workplace where he maltreated her. We got to say the code words here on YouTube. So we're going to we have been reading through the complaint that she has filed against Justin Baldoni, and this is going to be the third and final part of her complaint. And then up next, we will read through, he just recently filed his complaint against her. So we will read through that. So we will be able to compare and contrast right away. So that's great. So, all right, where are we? We are picking up where we left off last time. So please hit that like button for me as we begin. And here is the section that we left off. So this is Mr. Baldoni retaliated because HR complaints regarding his behavior threatened his feminist brand. I told you already, Justin Baldoni, I don't know anything about him other than I liked a show he was in. I don't know anything about Blake Lively other than she makes babies with Ryan Reynolds. So that's pretty much my information on these two. I don't really care for Blake Lively. I don't care, like, one way or another. I don't have any feelings for Justin Baldoni. I liked him in Jane the Virgin. It was a funny show, but I don't have any feelings one way or another towards him. He does kind of come off, I guess, he portrays himself to be like this feminist, this male feminist. So, that would be really, damaging to his reputation, especially in the industry, if Blake Lively were to come out and smear him, which, whether it's true or not, it would be damaging to his reputation. So they're saying he retaliated because of these complaints. So, on information and belief, Mr. Baldoni was desperate to suppress any suggestion that he engaged in inappropriate conduct, much less harassing conduct of the intimate kind, because it would entirely undermine his carefully curated public image as a feminist ally. Whoops, why am I not? I'm not highlighted. I like to highlight as I go along. All right, so in 2017, Mr. Baldoni presented a TED Talk entitled Why I'm Done Trying to Be Man Enough. I never saw it. Mr. Baldoni challenged men to be man enough to stand up to other men when they hear locker room talk, when they hear stories of SA, harassment of that nature. And these are just sources. Our footnotes have become just gobbledygook. All right, so Mr. Baldoni asked listeners, will you actually stand up and do something so that one day we don't have to live in a world where a woman has to risk everything and come forward to say the words me too. During the TED Talk, Mr. Baldoni displayed numerous screenshots of media coverage of himself from various sources as examples of his decision to use his social platform as a kind of his Trojan horse, wherein he could create a daily practice of authenticity and vulnerability. Mr. Baldoni then claimed the response has been incredible. It's been affirming, it's been heartwarming. I get tons of love and press and positive messages daily. So, okay. So what? Like, why does it bother her that he's done a TED Talk on this? Like, seriously. This is so. I feel like this whole thing is like calculated. Like, she might have planned to this whole thing to just take over his movie. And when he started fighting back, then she made it into a public complaint of a court filing, and then he fought back. I don't think she realized that he was going to fight back because most people wouldn't want to fight Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds and whatever studio power they have behind them and attorneys and whatnot. but I absolutely am all for it if he is. Hold on, dog's gonna bark. Now I don't know what I was saying, but she was gonna bark. The dog was about to bark at my boyfriend, who is taking the Christmas lights down because it's a decent day, and she saw him in the window. Anyways, all right. So around the same time of that TED Talk in 2017, Mr. Baldoni announced the launch of a male talk show through his media company, Wayfarer Entertainment, called Man Enough. So this entertainment company that he has, it's not just this movie. So he's doing other things with it. So this bitch just comes in and is like, "Oh, I know this is your movie and all, but I want producer credits." And even though it's his company, his movie, his entertainment company that he has, this is, oh, I feel I feel for Justin. Through that show, Mr. Baldoni sought to have public conversations on camera that he had never seen men have. In one episode on his show, Man Enough, Mr. Baldoni hosted a roundtable with really strong men, including Mr. Heath and others, in reaction to the Me Too movement to collectively learn from each other, from experts, and hear. Hold on, it's going to get loud from experts and hear firsthand from women and try to figure out how we can be better allies in our responses and in our actions. In the episode, Mr. Baldoni questions the group who is or who at this table has seen something and didn't say something. I mean objectification, harassment, and then not said anything. In 2021, the Man Enough franchise added a podcast also produced by Wayfarer Studios. The Man Enough podcast has featured episodes entitled Strength in Unity Men Supporting Women in Leadership, From Misogyny, Victim to Male Privilege, and Modern Dating, Consent, Boundaries, and Respect. So far, all you're doing is proving Justin's case. She's not helping her own case. Mr. Baldoni stated in his 2017 TED Talk, "Men are the problem. They created the glass ceiling, and if they want to be part of the solution, then words are no longer enough." By Mr. Baldoni's account, he became a feminist fighting for gender equality so quickly that he hadn't even realized that's what he was trying to do. In Mr. Baldoni's own words, his activism starts in the mirror with an audience of one. Mr. Baldoni has stated that he feels a deep responsibility to tear down the walls of power and privilege and believes the world needs men to show up not in big ways, but in hundreds and thousands of little ways to create better, more equitable world. Over the past approximately 7 years, and as relevant to this complaint, Mr. Baldoni has made the following statements. Let's just shut up and finally listen to the women in our lives. And then the other thing men are going to have to start doing now is recognizing when they made women uncomfortable and didn't realize it. I think that's when the other side of the Me Too movement is I'm sorry. Growing up, how many times did I hear bros before hoes? How demeaning, how sexist. We've built this system, the opposite of accountability, and now it's time to figure out how, as men, we can break that system. And it starts with showing what a real man is. A real man is someone that says, hey, man, we're still friends, but that's not cool. Imagine being essayed, finally coming forward about this traumatic thing that has happened to you and having people acting like you were to blame. It's important for us men to realize how crucial a role bystanders can play in stopping and preventing assault and harassment, how we must be a part of the movement and call for respect and equality for women, act upon that call to action, and continue to perpetrate positive behaviors among ourselves and our communities. Are you confident enough to listen to the women in your life? And will you be man enough to stand up to the other men when you hear locker room talk, when you hear stories of harassment? All of us have a situation or a pattern that we need to end the cycle of. First of all, I want men to stop asking the question, why do women stay? I want men to take accountability. I want men to hold other men accountable. So far, there's nothing wrong with anything he's saying here. Of course, we're not going to have a problem with that. Like, what? She's throwing in, like, all this stuff to say he says these things, but he's a big fat liar, even though I don't have proof that he's lying. This is totally just to smear him. I guarantee this lawsuit that doesn't have receipts is basically just to smear Justin. So there's never an excuse, no matter how much trauma a man has, there is never an excuse to lay hands and hurt a woman physically or emotionally. And we have to also understand that the majority of DV isn't physical. The scars are invisible. These are things that, it's emotional, it's gaslighting, it's all of the various things that so many people experience. And while we're on the topic here, I just want to say those invisible scars are some of the hardest, most difficult to heal. And if you know, you know, you've been there. I'm sorry for your journey. I've had a similar one, and those scars are, uh, sometimes the broken bones, the bruises. Not that I ever got that. Like my ex was very verbally, physically, or verbally, emotionally, psychologically, and basically in every way. But he didn't hit, but he would use physical, whatever. But anyways, um, still, those things to me are the hardest because sometimes like you can't unlearn certain things that they've drilled into your head. It takes a long time to realize like that's not the way life is. Anyways. All right, so I think we judge enough women and victims, but the real question is why do we keep allowing men to harm? In sum, Mr. Baldoni has crafted a public image of himself as not just an ally, but also a fierce advocate for women. Contrary to this image, as set forth in detail above, Mr. Baldoni has spent the last several months and significant resources on his goal of wanting to bury and destroy Ms. Lively for raising concerns about his and his CEO's harassing behavior and other disturbing conduct. Ms. Lively, her family, and her businesses have suffered and have been substantially harmed by the Wayfarer party's conduct. This she would have to prove. While there are considerable online coverage of the film and Ms. Lively leading up to the film nationwide release in U.S. theaters on August 9th, 2024, that coverage was mostly neutral. Some online discussions reference an apparent feud between the cast members, but they included a smaller percentage of negative and positive mentions. Soon, however, Ms. Lively and her team became aware of an increase in negative media articles and social media coverage about her. The significant spike in the volume of negative sentiment towards Ms. Lively included notable spikes on approximately August 8th and 14th, 2024, and continued to trend mostly negative for the remainder of 2024. Maybe people just don't like her. Maybe it was naturally occurring because people have seen that she's a mean girl in her the way she presents herself, the way she talks to other people in press interviews. Check it out. If you're not sure, go do a little search on YouTube and you'll find some pretty interesting interviews of her. All right, indeed, as noted above, TAG itself noted a shift due to their efforts as early as August 10th, 2024. How do you know that TAG noticed a shift? Oh, stop it. Sorry. All right, so I don't know how they know TAG noticed a shift. As of that date, the sentiment towards Ms. Lively turned toxic with a sudden increase in negative comments, including hypersexual content and calls for Ms. Lively to go F herself. It's coming from Reddit, all sorts of different X posts everywhere. Nearly decade old interviews of Ms. Lively were resurfaced commenting on her tone, posture, diction, and language. Ms. Lively was criticized for how she was marketing the film, repeatedly called a bully, a mean girl, and controlling, and was criticized for allegedly marginalizing Mr. Baldoni, among other things. Articles with members of the Tag and Jones Works teams working on behalf of Mr. Baldoni and Wayfair credited themselves with influencing, dissected Ms. Lively, and contemplated her cancellation. On information and belief, the Wayfarer team seeded social media content into publications with small audiences and lax editorial standards, and then fed those posts and or articles to publications like Page Six, Newsweek, the New York Post, TMZ, and BuzzFeed. These publications have larger audiences and greater reach, which significantly amplified the negative sentiment towards Ms. Lively. Content from low influence sites was often linked or referenced in articles on high influence platforms. The social manipulation campaign engineered by Mr. Baldoni and Wayfarer helped create and sustain a negative news cycle and social media algorithm around Ms. Lively. The online narrative continues to trend more negatively when compared with other weeks and months prior to the social manipulation campaign, as reflected in the sentiment chart dating from the publicity event on June 13th through the date the CRD complaint was filed. So there's a lot of negative, but it looks like there was a lot of negative even before. This was precisely the effect of the Baldani Wayfarer team this was the effect that they hoped to achieve. They manipulated the social conversion to discredit and bury Ms. Lively in retaliation for reporting her concerns about harassing and unsafe conduct during the production of the film, and in the hopes of deterring Ms. Lively from potentially taking those same concerns public. This campaign has been devastating to Ms. Lively, including by causing substantial harm to Ms. Lively, her family, as well as her businesses and all the people who work at each of them. Unlike Wayfarer and Mr. Baldoni, Ms. Lively has been precluded from not only experiencing the success of the film, but also from having the ability to engage further with her businesses, fans, and social media followers without immediately triggering an onslaught of hateful comments. Instead, Ms. Lively and her family have been forced to contend with a wide reaching negative media campaign. When it became clear that this media blitz was the result of an intentionally seeded, cultivated, and financed campaign against her, Ms. Lively began to experience mental, physical, professional, and financial harms that continue to the present. Hey man, you've got a bad reputation as it is. Justin Baldoni didn't create it. He didn't create the past publicity that apparently like she got Army hammered, kicked off the show or something. I don't know. I don't know anything about Gossip Girls. I think she was on. I don't know. But whatever it was, people didn't get along with her either on set there, and she's caused other issues. So this isn't her first rodeo causing problems. The effects of Ms. Lively's professional life were immediate and substantial. Given the ongoing nature of the campaign and the associated negative public sentiment, Ms. Lively did not believe she could proceed with public appearances or events without being forced to openly discuss what happened on set. For example, Ms. Lively canceled a critical Target corporate event for her hair care company, and she backed out of her scheduled role to host the premiere episode for the 50th anniversary season of Saturday Night Live in September. That's not on Justin. Her backing out of her contractual agreements that she has with these other companies, that has nothing to do with Justin. So, yeah. but now she's going to try to say that it is. The retaliation campaign against Ms. Lively has also damaged her companies. The long planned launch of her hair care line, Blake Brown, a date which was set more than a year prior to the date selected, not by Ms. Lively for the release of the film, was caught up in the crossfires of the negative environment against Ms. Lively initially before the social manipulation campaign started. Ms. Lively was informed that Blake Brown at Target's largest hair care launch on record. Based on internal sales projections, the sudden and unexpected negative media campaign launched against Ms. Lively depressed retail sales of Blake Brown products by 56 to 78%. That is not from some social media campaign. I'm sorry, but your products aren't selling because nobody wants your crappy hair products. Nobody cares about you. You are a celebrity with no real substance, and you're a mean girl. I'm sorry if you're a Blake Lively fan, but that's pretty much what I'm thinking at this point. So this dramatic drop was completely at odds with the high satisfaction scores that Blake Brown products received in the significant consumer testing performed before launch and its initial success after launch. Being a celebrity, you have yes men all over you. There's people that are probably like doing these polls and taking these scores and like, oh yeah, Blake, this is great. Everybody loves your product. And then they get to the real world and nobody really wants it. So there's that. When you're a celebrity, you kind of get told sometimes that you're um, that nothing you can do is it's could be wrong. And so people just give you opportunities to make a fool of yourself. Around the same time, the social media accounts for Ms. Lively's brands, including Betty Buzz and Betty Booze, were flooded by hateful comments which began to echo through other social and traditional media account outlets. On information belief, the astroturfing campaign was responsible for the wave of comments. None of Ms. Lively's businesses could operate as they ordinarily had before. Instead, the Baldoni Wayfarer astroturfing campaign forced each of Ms. Lively's businesses to go dark on social media in August. Um, okay, I don't buy it, but okay. I think maybe people just have had enough of celebrities. We are turning on them. We don't like them so much anymore. Uh, because we've realized more things in life are important, I guess, and they have no clue about what's real and what's not. Miss Lively did the same for nearly 2 months, and during this time was unable to market or promote any of her businesses, all of which rely on her support, causing issues with many business partners and customers. Again, that's on her, not on Justin. Moreover, when Ms. Lively limited comments on her personal Instagram account to limit the toxic harassment she was receiving, those users simply migrated to the social media accounts and websites of Blake Brown, Betty Buzz, and Betty Booze. Many of the negative comments on these businesses' social media accounts and websites had nothing to do with the products or brands, but instead referenced the film Mr. Baldoni and or Ms. Lively as a bully or mean girl. Maybe she really is. The emotional impact on Ms. Lively has been extreme, not only affecting her, but her family, including her husband and 4 children. There are days when she has struggled to get out of bed, and she frequently chooses not to venture outside in public. While she has fought to maintain her personal life and business interests, behind closed doors she has suffered from grief, fear, trauma, and extreme anxiety. She also has been experiencing repeated and painful physical symptoms as a result of this experience. Mr. Reynolds, too, has been affected mentally, physically, and professionally by his wife's and children's pain. Really. Worst of all, however, has been the impact of their young children who have been traumatized and emotionally uprooted in ways that have been substantially impacted their well-being. Are you kidding me? Like, what is wrong with Blake that she's letting her emotions get to her so traumatically that it's uprooting everything in their kids' lives? That's again on Blake. Her not taking her responsibility for her actions. These are but a few examples of the substantial harm caused by this malicious campaign, which pervaded and continues to pervade all aspects of Ms. Lively's life. Ms. Lively never sought out conflict with Wayfarer, Mr. Baldoni, or Mr. Heath, but instead consistently attempted to speak up for the safe and respectful workplace privately in the hopes of protecting herself as well as the cast and crew without jeopardizing a film that she believed could make a difference in people's lives. Really, because she was trying to sell her hair products during the press tour of her film. So tell me how that works. How is she keeping the film and the message of the film in the forefront when she's trying to sell her beauty products? In response, Mr. Baldoni, Mr. Heath, and those working for them sought to destroy Ms. Lively and anyone else who knew the truth. Ms. Lively's discovery of the full extent of the retaliatory campaign launched by the Wayfarer parties and their associates left her with no choice. Ms. Lively exhausted jurisdictional prerequisites to filing this lawsuit, including by timely filing a complaint regarding the behaviors identified herein with the California Civil Rights Department. On information and belief, after receiving such notice of the CRD complaint, Wayfarer, Mr. Baldoni, Mr. Heath, and their associates have continued their campaign against Ms. Lively in further retaliation for her speaking up against their misconduct. Through the CRD complaint and this action, Ms. Lively seeks to set the record straight, to hold the Wayfarer parties and associates accountable, and to shine a light on this new form of retaliation so that it will not be used against any others who seek to stand up and speak out against sexual harassment. So, the first cause of action against harassment in violation of six, 7, Title 7, against It Ends With Us Movie LLC and Wayfarer. Ms. Lively hereby repeats and reiterates, realleges, and incorporates by reference each and every allegation of the complaint as if fully set forth fully herein. At all times herein mentioned, Ms. Lively was an employee under Title 7, and It Ends With Us Movie LLC and Wayfarer were employers and or joint employers under 42 USC, whatever statutes those are. All right, at all times herein mentioned, Title 7 was in full force and effect and was fully binding upon defendants. It Ends With Us Movie LLC and Wayfarer as employers or joint employers and applicable to Ms. Lively as member of a group protected by Title 7 Prohibition against discrimination and harassment. Ms. Lively's sex and gender constitute a protected class under Title 7. So are men not protected under this title? It's only protecting women? I don't know. I don't know what this title is enough to know, but that was weird the way that it's phrased. So men aren't a protected class, just women. That seems a little odd. All right, so engaging in the conduct described in this complaint, defendants It Ends With Us and Wayfarer through defendants Baldoni and Heath discriminated against Ms. Lively in violation of Title VII by subjecting Ms. Lively to harassment and creating a hostile work environment on the basis of her sex and gender. When? When did he do that? Like, prove it. She still has yet to prove anything in this. The behavior of defendants Baldoni and Heath, as described in this complaint, was severe or pervasive, that it created a work environment that a reasonable person would perceive and that Ms. Lively did perceive to be hostile, intimidating, offensive, oppressive, and or abusive. Defendants, it ends with us and Wayfair through defendants Baldoni and Heath perpetrated this environment by failing to create a workplace in which individuals felt comfortable raising concerns regarding harassing and other inappropriate behavior on set, including in Wayfair's failure to provide Ms. Lively with an employee handbook, harassment policy, information on any training on harassment, discrimination, or respectful workplace expectations, as well as the information about the process for filing HR complaints and comments by defendants Baldoni and Heath undermining HR concerns. The conduct by defendants Baldoni and Heath, including but not limited to the conduct described in paragraphs 4267 above, is in direct violation of Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 as amended, for which defendants It Ends With Us and Wayfair are liable. These actions severely impacted Ms. Lively's physical, psychological, and emotional well being by creating an intimidating, hostile, and offensive working environment, as it would have for any reasonable person, and so altered the terms and conditions of Ms. Lively's employment such that it was more difficult for Ms. Lively to perform her job. There's going to be video, there's going to be video that didn't make it into the film that the production company most certainly still has, especially after how Blake had been acting. I'm sure they would have wanted to keep that. And it's going to show if he did the things that she's alleging and if maybe she did some things that might prove maybe she's been the aggressor the whole time. Out of water. Darn it, I gotta go get water. All right, so defendants It with Us and Wayfair are liable because defendants Baldoni and Heath co-own and operate Wayfair, the sole member of It Ends With Us, personally committed the harassing conduct and were therefore aware of their own conduct and failed to take immediate and appropriate corrective action. Further, defendants Wayfair and It Ends With Us are strictly liable for the actions of defendants Baldoni and Heath, who were acting in their capacities as Ms. Lively's supervisors. Harassing and retaliatory conduct against harassed Ms. Lively continued in various forms throughout 2024 and on information and belief is continuing, including a coordinated campaign to cast Ms. Lively in a false light to discredit her in the event that she publicly disclosed her concerns about harassment and other unlawful conduct and to irreparably damage Ms. Lively's career and future career earnings. Um, as a direct, foreseeable, and proximate result of this unlawful discriminatory conduct by defendants, It Ends With Us Movie LLC and Wayfarer, Ms. Lively has suffered and continues to suffer substantial damages, including but not limited to severe emotional distress and pain, humiliation, embarrassment, belittlement, frustration, and mental anguish, and is entitled to an award of punitive damages in an amount to be determined at trial. The conduct described herein by defendants It Ends With Us movie and Wayfarer through defendants Baldoni and Heath was a motivating factor in causing and caused Ms. Lively's harm. What harm? Still have to prove that that she was harmed in some way. Is she going to therapy? Has she had like mental breakdowns? Is she seeking, is there treatment that's happening? Has she been diagnosed with anything? You can't just say, well, it's really hurt me and I haven't gotten out of bed and yeah, I want to sue you for it because I'm really emotionally harmed and therefore it is affecting my family and everybody. Anyways, you need proof. Um, they're saying the defendants It ends with us and Wayfarer intentionally violated Ms. Lively's rights under Title VII with malice or reckless indifference, and as a result are liable for punitive damages. The second cause of action would be retaliation of violation Title VII. Ms. Lively hereby repeats and all the other things from before. At all times herein mentioned, Ms. Lively was an employee under Title VII with the movie and Wayfarer. At all times herein mentioned, Title VII was in full force and effect and was fully binding upon defendants. We're just going to skip all that next time. Specifically pursuant to 42 USC, it is an unlawful employment practice for an employer to discriminate against an employee because she was opposed or she has opposed any practices forbidden under Title VII or because she has filed a complaint against conduct prohibited under Title VII, as Ms. Lively did when she complained to Wayfarer, Mr. Baldoni, and Mr. Heath about harassing and other unlawful conduct based on her gender, which occurred throughout the film's production. Ms. Lively engaged in protected activity by complaining to Wayfarer, Mr. Baldoni, and Mr. Heath about harassing treatment based on sex and other unlawful conduct on multiple occasions during the filming and production of the film, which Ms. Lively reasonably believed to be unlawful. After Ms. Lively engaged in such protected activity, defendants subjected Ms. Lively to adverse employment action, including but not limited to by launching a coordinated campaign to cast Ms. Lively in a false light during the publicity and promotion of the film and thereafter. Ms. Lively's protected activity was the motivating reason for and but for cause of defendant's conduct. This harassing and retaliatory conduct continued in various forms throughout 2024 and on information and belief is continuing in order to discredit her in the event that she publicly disclosed her concerns about harassment and other unlawful conduct and to irreparably damage Ms. Lively's career and future earning capabilities. As a direct, foreseeable, and proximate result of the unlawful retaliatory actions undertaken by the defendants, it ends with us and Wayfarer through the actions of defendants Baldoni, Heath, and Sorowitz and their associates. Ms. Lively has suffered and continues to suffer substantial damages, including but not limited to severe emotional distress and pain, humiliation, embarrassment, belittlement, frustration, and mental anguish, and is entitled to an award of punitive damages in the amount to be determined at trial. I don't believe that she is suffering all these things: severe emotional distress, pain, humiliation, embarrassment, belittlement, frustration, and mental anguish. That's a lot for what she's alleging happened. I don't think he did anything to her, but that's just my opinion. We'll get to the receipts later because she hasn't really shown us that many, if you've noticed. And the ones that she has shown, she gives us context that isn't there in the narrative of the document, but she doesn't give us the actual context within the text messages themselves. So I'm finding her filing a little uh, disingenuous, let's say. So defendants, it ends with us and Wayfarer intentionally violated her rights, blah, blah, blah. They're asking for punitive damages again. All right, so the next charge, this is the third cause. So remember that other filing, this was, whoops, that's not it. Um, I don't have it open. The other filing, it was another complaint and it had all these different action or different complaints. These are those complaints that she's filing against these individuals. And it's mostly Wayfarer and it ends with us, the movie, but now it's Wayfarer, the movie, and Baldoni and Heath. So the third cause of action is harassment in violation of FEHA, FEHA. Ms. Lively reiterates all the stuff above. I'm not going to repeat all the stuff above. At all times herein mentioned, California's Fair Employment and Housing Act, the FEHA, Cal Government Code 12940, was in full force and effect and fully binding upon defendants. It ends with us and Wayfarer, Baldoni, and Heath as employers, joint employers, or supervisors. Ms. Lively was a member of a group protected by FEHA's prohibition against harassment based on gender or sex. Defendants, it ends with us, Wayfarer, Baldoni, and Heath have discriminated against Ms. Lively on the basis of her sex/gender through the actions of defendants Baldoni and Heath in violation of FEHA by subjecting Ms. Lively to harassment and creating a hostile work environment on the basis of her sex and gender. She has not shown us or proven in any way that he has done this based on her sex and gender. I mean, she hasn't proven that he's done anything, in my opinion, but the fact that she's saying that he's doing this harassing based on her gender, that doesn't make, that doesn't track to me. It's not adding up. Such harassing conduct, as described in this complaint, was severe or pervasive, such that it created a work environment that a reasonable person would perceive and that Ms. Lively did perceive to be hostile, intimidating, offensive, oppressive, and or maltreatment taking place there. So defendants' conduct so altered and the working conditions of Ms. Lively such that it was more difficult for Ms. Lively to perform her job as it would have been for any reasonable person. It ends with us and Wayfair are liable because defendants Baldoni and Heath co-own and operate Wayfarer, the sole member of It Ends With Us, personally committed the harassing conduct and were therefore Wayfarer and It Ends With Us knew it should have known of the conduct and failed to take immediate and appropriate corrective action. Further, Wayfarer and It Ends With Us are strictly liable for the actions of defendants Baldoni and Heath, who were acting in their capacities as Lively's supervisors. Defendants' unlawful conduct was a substantial factor in causing Ms. Lively to suffer and continue to suffer substantial losses in earnings, equity, and other employment benefits and has incurred other economic losses. Defendant's unlawful conduct was also a substantial factor in causing Ms. Lively to suffer emotional distress, shame, and embarrassment, all to Ms. Lively's damage in an amount to be proven at time of trial. Defendants committed the acts herein despicably, maliciously, fraudulently, and oppressively, with the wrongful intention of injuring Ms. Lively and from an improper and evil motive. Evil motive. Is evil motive a legal term? Let me know. Amounting to malice and unconscious disregard of the right or safety of Ms. Lively and others. Ms. Lively is thus entitled to recover punitive damages. Fourth cause of action, retaliation in violation of FEHA. All the stuff above, specifically pursuant to 12940, it is unlawful employment practice for an employer to discriminate against any person because that person has opposed any practices forbidden under FEHA or because the person has filed a complaint against conduct prohibited under FEHA, as Ms. Lively did when she complained to Wayfarer, Mr. Baldoni, and Mr. Heath about harassing and other unlawful conduct based on sex which occurred throughout the film's production. Ms. Lively engaged. Wait, what? Say that again. So she's saying, or because the person has filed a complaint against conduct prohibited under FEHA, as Lively did when she complained to Wayfarer about the harassing and unlawful conduct based on sex. Harassing and unlawful conduct based on sex. It's just a really weird way to say that. Maybe during intimate scenes that were being filmed. I mean, it's just like a weird way of saying it. But anyways, let's move on. Don't need to get hung on stupid stuff like that. All right, Ms. Lively engaged in protective activity in complaining to Wayfarer, Mr. Baldoni, Mr. Heath, about harassing treatment based on sex and other unlawful conduct, whatever that is, on multiple occasions during the filming and production of the film, which Ms. Lively reasonably believed to be unlawful. After Ms. Lively engaged in such protected activity, defendants subjected Ms. Lively to an adverse employment action, including but not limited to by launching a coordinated campaign to cast Ms. Lively in a false light during the publicity and promotion of the film and thereafter. Ms. Lively's protected activity was a substantial motivating reason for the defendant's conduct. As a direct, foreseeable, and proximate result of the unlawful retaliatory actions undertaken by defendants through her actions, through the actions of Baldoni, Heath, and Sarowitz, Ms. Lively has suffered and continues to suffer substantial damages, including but not limited to severe emotional distress, pain, humiliation, embarrassment, belittlement, frustration, mental anguish, in an amount to be determined at trial. Defendants committed the acts described herein maliciously, fraudulently, and oppressively with the wrongful intention of harming Ms. Lively in violation of Ms. Lively's rights under FEHA and acted in a manner warranting punitive damages pursuant to California California Civil Code. Fifth cause of action, retaliation in violation of California Labor Code, Cal Labor Code 1102.5. Ms. Lively hereby repeats, reiterates, realleges, and incorporates all the above pursuant to California Labor Code 1102.5b. An employer or any person acting on behalf of an employer shall not retaliate against an employee for disclosing information to a person with authority over the employee who has the authority to investigate, discover, or correct a violation of law. Section 1102.5d additionally prohibits an employer or any person acting on behalf of an employer to retaliate against an employee for having exercised their rights under Section B. As Ms. Lively did when she complained to Wayfarer, Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath about harassing and other unlawful conduct based on their intimate scenes, which occurred throughout the film's production. Ms. Lively engaged in protected activity by complaining to Wayfarer, Mr. Baldoni, and Mr. Heath about harassing treatment based on those scenes and other unlawful conduct on multiple occasions during the filming and production of the film, which Miss Lively reasonably believed to be unlawful. After Miss Lively engaged in such protected activity, defendants subjected Ms. Lively to adverse employment action by launching a coordinated campaign to cast Ms. Lively in a false light during the publicity and promotion of the film to discredit her in the event that she publicly disclosed her concerns about harassment and other unlawful conduct and to irreparably damage Ms. Lively's career and future earning capabilities in direct retaliation for Ms. Lively's participation in protected activity. The unlawful retaliatory actions perpetrated by defendants It Ends With Us movie and Wayfarer through the actions of defendants Baldoni, Heath, and Sarowitz was a substantial factor in causing Ms. Lively to suffer and continue to suffer substantial damages, including but not limited to severe emotional distress and pain, humiliation, embarrassment, belittlement, frustration, and mental anguish in an amount to be determined at trial. Defendants It Ends With Us and Wayfarer committed the acts described herein maliciously, fraudulently, and oppressively with the wrongful intention of harming Ms. Lively in violation of California Code. The sixth cause of action, failure to investigate, prevent, and/or remedy harassment in violation of FEHA and the California Code. Ms. Lively hereby repeats all the stuff above at all times mentioned. FIHA was in full force and effect and was binding, specifically 12940 J through K require employers to take all reasonable steps to prevent harassment and make it an unlawful employment practice for an employer to fail to take all reasonable steps necessary to prevent harassment from occurring. Ms. Lively was subjected to harassing and other unlawful conduct based on the intimate scenes filmed, which occurred throughout the film's production. Ms. Lively complained to Wayfarer, Mr. Baldoni, and Mr. Heath about the conduct that she experienced, but Wayfarer failed to take all reasonable steps to prevent the sex-based harassment. Like, what is that even? Like, how is she being harassed based on the scenes? I don't even understand. Like, sex-based harassment. Okay. And retaliation offered by Ms. Lively. These things are starting to hurt my ears. My other ear things broke, and now I need to wear these stupid things. Defendant It Ends With Us movie, LLC, and Wayfarer's failure to take all reasonable steps to prevent the unlawful harassment and retaliatory actions perpetrated by their co-defendants was a substantial factor in causing Ms. Lively to suffer and continue to suffer substantial damages, including but not limited to severe emotional distress, pain, humiliation, embarrassment, belittlement, frustration, and mental anguish, and all the other things. All right. The last, or is this the last? I don't know. The next cause is aiding and abetting harassment and retaliation in violation of FIHA. So all the other stuff that she said already before. At all times herein mentioned, California's Fair Employment and Housing Act, FIHA, was in full force and was fully binding upon the relevant defendants. Specifically, 12940I makes it unlawful for any person to aid, abet, incite, compel, or coerce the doing of any of the acts forbidden under this part or to attempt to do so. Defendants Nathan, Tag, and Abel, as individuals and entities that are not Ms. Lively's employer, aided and abetted the discriminatory conduct of defendants It Ends With Us and Wayfarer, Baldoni, and Heath, including but not limited to by practicing or participating in the above described coordinating astroturfing campaign to discredit and bury Ms. Lively. You're going to find out that he didn't really need to do a whole lot to do anything to ruin her reputation. She did all of it by herself. So the only person she has to blame is her. As a direct and proximate result of defendant's unlawful discriminatory conduct in violation of FIHA, plaintiff has suffered and continues to suffer harm. How? How does she continue to suffer? Which she is entitled to an award of monetary damages, liquidated damages, interest, and other relief. How much did this movie make? Did this movie just like make it really big and that's why she wants the money? That's why she's coming at him so hard? I don't know. Defendant's conduct was willful, and they knew that their actions constituted unlawful violation of the FIHA and/or showed reckless disregard for Ms. Lively's statutorily protected rights. Mr. Sarowitz, Ms. Nathan, Tag, and Ms. Abel intentionally violated Ms. Lively's rights under the California Fair Employment and Housing Act, acting with malice, oppression, and/or fraud. Therefore, Ms. Sarowitz, Ms. Nathan, Tag, and Ms. Abel are liable for punitive damages for the reprehensible conduct of Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath in an amount necessary to punish them and to discourage future wrongful conduct. Can you imagine for one second that just think for one second, Justin's innocent. And she's doing this to him, saying, like, this, we want punitive damages. We want you to be punished for the things that you've done. What has he done? So far, they haven't proven anything to me. Crazy. But yeah, they want to punish them. Defendants committed the acts herein despicably, maliciously. How many other words can they put in here? Despicably, maliciously, fraudulently, and oppressively, with the wrongful intention of injuring Ms. Lively from an improper and evil motive amounting to malice and in conscious disregard of the rights for safety of Ms. Lively and others, thus punitive damages. The eighth cause of action, breach of contract, and the actor loan out agreement. So that comes into play again. So Ms. Lively hereby repeats all the stuff above. Ms. Lively was the intended beneficiary of the actor loan out agreement. At all times relevant to this complaint, there was a unity of interest and ownership between defendant, it ends with us, and defendant Wayfarer, which, on information and belief, is its sole member. Blakel Inc. has complied with all applicable provisions of the actor loan out agreement. Paragraph 7 of the agreement strictly prohibited the harassment of any type. Further, blah, blah, blah. Further, it helps when my mouth makes the right sound. Further, paragraph 7 of the agreement prohibited any punishment or retaliation against another for his or her refusal of such harassment. Through defendant Wayfarer, defendant It Ends With Us, defendant Baldoni, and defendant Heath repeatedly violated paragraph 7 of the agreement as set forth in the proceedings. What's paragraph 7? Tell us what it is and how. How did they violate all that? Ms. Lively is entitled to enforce the actor loan out agreement against defendant It Ends With Us Movie, LLC, and defendant Wayfarer. Through defendant Wayfarer's conduct, defendant It Ends With Us, breach of its obligations under the actor loan out agreement has caused and will continue to cause irreparable injury to Ms. Lively both personally and professionally. Such breach of obligations under the actor loan out agreement was a substantial factor in causing Ms. Lively's harm. What harm? What harm was she caused? Ninth cause of action, breach of contract writer agreement. Ms. Lively hereby repeats all of the above. Blakel has complied with the applicable provisions of the contract writer agreement. Paragraph 10 of the agreement strictly prohibited It Ends With Us Movie LLC from retaliation of any kind against Ms. Lively for raising concerns about the conduct described in the contract writer agreement, including during publicity or promotional work for the film. Ms. Lively is entitled to enforce the contract writer agreement against defendant It Ends With Us and defendant Wayfarer. Through defendant Wayfarer's conduct, defendant It Ends With Us Movies breach of its obligations under the contract writer has caused her irreparable injury, both personally and professionally. However you get there, I don't know. She doesn't tell us how she's been irreparably harmed. Such breach of obligations under the contract writer was a substantial factor in causing her harm. 10. The 10th cause of action, intentional infliction of emotional distress. Ms. Lively hereby repeats, reiterates, realleges all of the above. Defendants Wayfarer, It Ends With Us, Baldoni, Heath, Sarowitz, Nathan, Tagg, and Abel intentionally engaged in extreme and outrageous conduct towards Ms. Lively, which conduct was so extreme as to exceed all bounds of what is usually tolerated in a civilized community. What? It exceeded all bounds of what happens in a civilized community. I think you're being really hyperbolic here because I don't think there's anything wrong with trying to get ahead of the bad press by putting out your own good press. And Blake had her own issues even before this film with her reputation. So that's on her. Where did I leave off? Okay, conduct, defendant's conduct included soliciting, developing, implementing, and promoting a covert multi-tier press and digital plan that defendants themselves described as social manipulation regarding Ms. Lively to destroy her reputation and career in retaliation for exercising her legally protected right to speak up about their misconduct on the set of the film and to deter or prevent Ms. Lively from publicly disclosing defendants' harassing and discriminatory conduct. God, these sentences are so loud sometimes. It's like, I gotta take a breath. Defendants by Defendants Wayfarer, It Ends With Us, Baldoni, Heath, Sarowitz, Nathan, Tag, and Abel intended to cause Ms. Lively emotional distress in the alternative, and at the least, these defendants acted with reckless disregard of the probability that their conduct would cause Ms. Lively to suffer emotional distress. Ms. Lively suffered severe emotional distress as a result of these defendants' conduct. The outrageous conduct by defendants Wayfarer, It Ends With Us movie, Baldoni, Heath, Sarowitz, Nathan Tagg, and Abel was a substantial factor in causing her severe emotional distress and was the actual and proximate cause of the distress. Defendants Wayfarer, It Ends With Us, Baldoni, Heath, Sarowitz, Nathan Tagg, and Abel acted with oppression, fraud, or malice as defined by the California Code and engaged in highly reprehensible conduct warranting punitive damages. The 11th cause of action, and I think this might be the last one, but I'm not sure. Negligence, infliction of emotional distress. Ms. Lively hereby repeats, reiterates, realleges, and incorporates by reference each and every allegation of the complaint as if fully set forth fully herein. Defendants Wayfarer, Baldoni, and Heath owed a duty of care to maintain a safe working environment, free of harassment and retaliation, to avoid causing foreseeable harm to Ms. Lively. At all times mentioned, it is reasonably foreseeable that Ms. Lively would suffer harm if these defendants participated in, or failed to address the conduct described in the preceding paragraphs. In engaging in the conduct described in this complaint, these defendants breached the duty of care to Ms. Lively and affirmatively contributed to and caused Ms. Lively injuries. Ms. Lively suffered serious emotional distress as a result of the defendant's negligent conduct. Negligence of defendants Wayfarer, Baldoni, and Heath was a substantial factor in causing Ms. Lively's emotional distress. As a direct and proximate cause of their misconduct, as alleged herein, Ms. Lively suffered and continues to suffer the damages alleged in this complaint. Oh, we've got more. Okay. The 12th cause of action, false light invasion of privacy. California Constitution, Article 1. Okay. So Ms. Lively hereby repeats, reiterates all of the above. As alleged herein above, defendants Wayfarer, Baldoni, Heath, Nathan, Tagg, and Abel publicly disclosed information or material regarding plaintiff's marketing decisions, moral character, private life, and family, which showed Ms. Lively in a false light. The false light created by the disclosures of these defendants would be highly offensive and objectionable to a reasonable person in Ms. Lively's position, in that it made Ms. Lively the object of scorn, pity, ridicule, humiliation, and other suffering. Oh no, she was ridiculed and humiliated by fans because they've seen through her mean girl act. Well, she acts nice, but she really is a mean girl. These defendants knew the public disclosures would create a false impression about Ms. Lively or acted with reckless disregard for the truth. As a direct and proximate result of the said publicity and false and misleading disclosures, Ms. Lively sustained harm, including to her business and profession as well as her reputation. Further, Ms. Lively has suffered and continues to suffer from grief and anxiety as a result of the near overnight change in public sentiment regarding her reputation, work, and brands. As a further direct and proximate result of the said disclosures, Ms. Lively has suffered loss of income and interference with future income. The conduct of defendants Wayfair, Baldoni, Heath, Sarowitz, Nathan, Tagg, and Abel, as described herein, was a substantial factor in causing Ms. Lively harm, constituted a serious invasion of Ms. Lively's right to privacy, and was an egregious breach of social norms that shocks the conscience. Defendants have engaged in the alleged conduct above with oppression, fraud, and malice. Accordingly, Ms. Lively is entitled to an award of punitive and exemplary damages. There's more. Sexual harassment in violation of California Code. Against Baldoni and Heath, Ms. Lively realleges and incorporates all of the above. At all times mentioned, defendants Baldoni and Heath, as a director or producer of the film and as operators of Wayfarer, had a professional relationship with Ms. Lively. In engaging in the conduct described in this complaint, defendants Baldoni and Heath subjected Ms. Lively to harassing conduct based on her sex and/or gender. Defendants Baldoni and Heath's behavior, as described in this complaint, was unwelcomed, pervasive, or severe, such that it altered the conditions of the business relationship by creating a work environment that is hostile, intimidating, offensive, oppressive, or one with maltreatment. As a direct, foreseeable, and proximate result of defendants Baldoni and Heath's unlawful actions, Ms. Lively has suffered and continues to suffer substantial damages, including but not limited to past and future losses in earnings, equity, and other employment benefits, and has incurred other economic losses. As a further direct, foreseeable, and proximate result of the defendants, Baldoni and Heath's unlawful actions, Ms. Lively has suffered emotional distress, humiliation, shame, and embarrassment, all to the Ms. Lively's damages, all to Ms. Lively's damage in an amount to be proven at time of trial. Defendants Baldoni and Heath committed the acts herein despicably, maliciously, fraudulently, and oppressively, with the wrongful intention of injuring Ms. Lively from an improper and evil motive amounting to malice and unconscious disregard of the rights, safety, or well-being of Ms. Lively and others. Ms. Lively is thus entitled to recover punitive damages from defendants Baldoni and Heath in an amount according to proof. Prayer for relief, wherefore plaintiff prays for the following relief: for a money judgment representing compensatory damages, how else would you say that? Compensatory damages, including consequential damages, lost wages, earnings, and all other sums of money, together with interest and other amounts in an amount to be proven at trial. For an award of money judgment for mental pain and anguish and severe and serious emotional distress in an amount to be proven at trial. For pre and post judgment interest, for statutory and civil penalties, for punitive damages according to proof, for attorney's fees and costs incurred by Ms. Lively, and for such other legal and equitable relief as the court deems appropriate. Demand for jury trial. Ms. Lively demands a jury trial on all causes of action triable by jury. I concur, I agree, I approve. Let's bring this to trial. Let's air it all out in front of the world to see. I would like to. So this was signed by Ezra Hudson, Stephanie Roser, Catherine Rose Noble, Manat, Phelps, and Phillips LLP is where they are from, and those are attorneys for plaintiff Blake Lively. And we're going to find out that Justin Baldoni countersues Blake, and we're going to find out that some of the things that she's alleging just might not be exactly accurate the way that she's alleging them. So we'll get to that in the next few episodes. It's going to take a few episodes to get through that as well. So make sure you hit the like button on your way out. Make sure you're subscribed, and I will see you guys in the next one. Let me know in the comments below what you think of this lawsuit, where it's going to go, who do you think's telling the truth. Let me know. I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks so much for watching. Bye now.